God, we love you. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to come and to learn from you. We're in this series called Influential, and I'm just pumped about some of the stuff that I think Derek and I have been talking about. I think it's so relevant to us. So God, I pray that you speak through me this morning, you challenge us, you open our eyes, open our hearts. The distractions that Derek was talking about, that none of that happened this morning. We can all stay focused, stay on task, and just really hear from you this morning. God, we love you. How are we all doing? We like the end of the school year now?
Yeah.
Who's done? Who's like, is completely done? Like one person graduates, right? Are all the graduates there this morning? Yeah. Middle school, when do you guys finish?
May 26th.
This Friday? So one more week?
I'm already done.
It's really not how much he walks around. Like,
all right.
It's okay. It's
I have nobody's attention right now.
okay, so see where
All right, let's bring it back in.
the edge of that.
Everybody's talking.
So that's how far over this way he's probably.
I love that you guys like each other, but let's kind of bring it in over here. Let's pay attention. Yeah, so cool, excited for it. I guess I started it. I asked the question, but I'm excited that you guys are finishing up this in the next couple weeks. I'm excited for summer. And like I was talking about on Thursday night, Adam and Josiah and I teamed out some exciting stuff planned for you guys. Looking to get some events rolling. Derek kind of mentioned that we're going to be doing some preaching this summer, so some Sunday morning series. Stoked for that kind of stuff. But you know, all in all, I think it's an exciting time to grow in community as a group, to invite friends, to bring them in, to show them what it's about, as we get a lot of events rolling and some things happening this summer. But for this morning, you know, I was thinking about the series, the sermon, and it reminded me of a philosophy that I've had over the years that really just isn't the smartest, to be honest. Is this okay? Is this working all right? Is this helping? Yeah. All right. So let me know. Yeah. So it reminded me of a philosophy that I've had over the last couple of years that I would not encourage you to have, but it's something that I've kind of taken on that my friends actually have caught on as well. But I kind of like the whole dare me to do something and I'll probably do it, right? It's the whole thing of like saying you won't, right? They'll like say, oh, you won't do that, right? That's kind of like what my friends over the years have started saying to me, and realizing that I'll pretty much always do it if it's like legal and I'm not going to like break a bone in my body or something, right? So like my friends have caught on this, and that's probably the worst part, is because they know that I'll do it. They'll pretty much anytime they see something crazy, they'll tell me like, hey, you won't do this. And so I've done some pretty dumb things over the years, especially past couple of years. Pretty much, yeah, just some very dumb things that I don't really want to talk about. But one thing I'll share this morning. I know it's another dumb thing, but I'll share with you guys. We have my dorm. I'm in college right now, and my dorm hall this year. There's 5 stories, and so at the top there's like a giant patio area. And I share with with my small group on Thursday night. But it's kind of a cool area where we can just hang out. We go up and watch, maybe the sunset, sunrise. We watch stars at night, whatever. It's just a cool place to vibe, whatever. And I just remember one day we were chilling up there with a bunch of people, and there was like a bunch of pumpkins up there, and basically a bunch of people said like, hey, you won't like throw them over the side, and like, and like I said, it's dumb, I know, like you don't have to tell me it's dumb, like I know, and I really shouldn't have done it, but there's a bunch of pumpkins, and they told me I wouldn't, so I said, all right, I will, I guess, apparently. Yeah, so I take the pumpkin. Now you gotta know, right next to the dorm is a road. It's not like a public road, it's like on the university campus, but it's one of the roads that goes right through the center of the campus. And then right by me, where I'm throwing it over the edge, there's like the corner, and it's kind of blind. So really, I just don't know if a car's going to be coming around the corner. And by the time it takes a pumpkin to drop 5 stories, it's about the time that it would take for a car to come around and be right underneath it as the pumpkin hits it. All right. And so I'm like just really debating it for like a super long time, and I'm just like finally getting to the point where like, all right, I'm either going to do it or not. Like I'm losing people's attention. It's like, all right, really, you don't have to make it all down, right? We can all agree, right? But so it's getting to that point where I'm like, all right, I have to do it. So I get my phone out. I'm like, it's just so dumb. I'm taking like a video of like they said I would, and then I throw it over, and it like drops, and basically, long story short, there was like, we have these like campus cops, like, I know, it's just all bad. We have these like campus cops, and there has to be a gazillion of them, because, I mean, what are the chances that one literally drives up right as I chuck it over the side of the building? And so, basically, I've taken this little selfie video thing, and I'm like, they said I wouldn't. I do it, change the video, watch it go down, and then right as it's about to hit the ground, I'm so thankful that it did not land on top of his car. Because like, how bad would that have been had I broken the windshield or something? I don't know, like, it would have been horrible. But, so I'm taking the video, and then it lands, it completely shatters, it falls to its death, 5 stories. And then right as it happens, you know, the cop, and he literally just slams on his brake, and he just sits there. And I think he was in complete shock that like a pumpkin had just fallen to its death and shattered right in front of him on the ground. Like what are the chances of this? So this dude's like, I'm kind of like watching him, like knowing that I'm 5 stories high, that that I got a little bit of like room, you know, I can maybe hide, so I don't know, whatever. So I'm just kind of watching, and he's just sitting there, and he starts looking up. I think he's just so confused, and all of a sudden, like he kind of like starts like going real fast around the corner. He's probably gonna like try to come in. So I like go and hide, and you know that's pretty much all that happened. I mean, there's nothing like crazy that happened in the other room, but it was definitely one of the dumber things that I did, and I realized how funny would it have been. Now just think about this. Just on a more serious note, had you seen someone do that on their own? Okay, like think about, like, what if you walked on and I'm just sitting on the patio with a pumpkin in my hand, and I'm just like looking around, and I'm just like, woo! Like, wouldn't that have been the weirdest thing in the entire world? Like that would have just been embarrassing. Like if you walked up into through the door on the patio, seeing some dude with a pumpkin just chucking it over the side and then just kind of walking away. Like nobody does that on their own, right? Why did I do it? Seriously, why did I do it? Why? Because you won't. Because people told me, exactly, because you won't, right? I did it because they told me that I wouldn't. I did it because people, it was essentially peer pressure, right? Like they kind of, I mean not like horrible peer pressure, but like they influenced my decision to do it, right? Like you would not normally, and some of you probably would, but you wouldn't usually see someone do it on their own, right? Like I certainly, like I was thinking like, I would have never done that on my own, right? And I was thinking afterwards, I was like, well that wasn't very smart obviously, and probably should have done that. And, you know, just kind of getting my college, you know, barely, day by day I guess, but I was natively influenced by my friends, right? I was natively influenced, and we can all point to times in our lives when this has happened. Right? I mean, we can all agree that there's been times where we've been in circles, we've been with groups of people, that they've influenced us to do something that we wouldn't do on our own. Right? We can all think of times in our lives when this has happened. And I want to play with this idea for a quick second, right? Think about the people that you surround yourself with. Okay? And I will say it is intentional. Okay? Who you are around is not by accident. It's the people that you choose to walk with on a day-to-day basis, right? You would all agree on that. Okay? So not by chance, it's who you're choosing to walk with on a day-to-day basis. Okay? And I would encourage you to think about that for a second. Who are you walking with on a day-to-day basis? Okay? Are you surrounding yourself with positive influences, or are you surrounding yourself with negative influences? Think about that seriously. Because that will change the course of your life. Okay? I think this, and this is a strong belief that I have, I think that this time of your guys' life, middle school and high school, is the biggest time in terms of influence, because you are figuring out who you are as an individual. Okay? You are figuring out who you are as an individual, and so you are being influenced by other people around you. Okay? And so I would encourage you to think about this. Who are you surrounding yourself with? Because the reality is you are going to be influenced. You can be negatively influenced, or watch this, you can be positively influenced. And I know it sounds like common sense, but we rarely think that we're positively influenced by our friends. But I would encourage you, surround yourself with better people. Surround yourself with better people. Because surround yourself with people that are worse than you, and you will be influenced. Okay, and so thinking about this idea of like who I was with on that day, and who I was being influenced by to throw that pumpkin over the wall, right? Still, we can all laugh about it, but seriously, probably not the best influences, right? Now think about influences that I've had on my life, the ways I've been able to influence other people's lives. I have Some of you guys know this story. I had a friend, actually, honestly, he was not my friend. I really just didn't like him that much. He actually bullied me. I'm gonna be honest with you, and he's not here, so I can just throw shade all I want, right? So he kind of bullied me a lot, and I really just disliked him a lot. It was in middle school, okay? And Derek had recently come to the youth group, and he was starting up, and I was so pumped about youth group. Like, I just remember being so stoked. Are you throwing something? No? All right. All right, good. But I just remember being so stoked about youth group. I remember I was just so stoked. I was like, I wanted to invite friends. I wanted to bring people. I wanted to share people, like share the gospel with people. And I was just so stoked. So I remember in middle school actually inviting some of my friends to come, and I invited them and we said like, hey, I'd love you to come be a part of this. Come check out what we do on Thursday night, Sunday morning. It's pretty cool. I got some people eventually to come, but. Actually, it was pretty funny. This kid, he literally just picked on me, and I just didn't like him, and because he picked on me, really, and so I kind of had some beef with this kid. But I invited some of my friends, right, to you, and he happened to be there, and he heard. All my other friends said, no, I don't want to go, or I can't make it. He was the one person there. I didn't even know he was standing there. He like took me up on an offer, and I was like, all right, like. I'm stoked, like, I'm glad he's going to come, but, like, I wasn't necessarily super cool with this dude because he just was always kind of big on me and stuff. So I didn't, like, love the guy. But I ended up, like, hanging out with him a little bit that week. I was like, oh, this is cool, it's going to be sick. And then we went to youth group. And that week was, that night was a day that I will always remember for the rest of my life. Because he came to youth group that night and we gave a gospel presentation. And I remember it was, I don't know if you guys, some of you guys were around that point, but I think it was when we were using that cross, I think. I don't totally remember, but I remember the lights went out and we were kind of like, it was a time of prayer and the leaders kind of stepped up and were like, we'd be happy to pray with you. And I think some of you guys might remember this, but he took him up on that offer and I could just tell he was sitting there thinking about it and praying about it and like, all right, is this a decision that I want to make? And I remember it kind of went into this time of like prayer, like I can't fully remember, but then he got up and he went, and I think he talked to Derek or something, but that night he gave his life to the Lord, and he made the decision to follow Christ. And the next 6 years of my life, I watched him walk that journey. Now it wasn't always easy. He lived in a family of people that don't believe in God. He was the only believer, and I saw him walk, and just struggle with that. I mean, it was a struggle, and I don't necessarily like. It's a hard road to walk down, right? We understand this. But that night was something so powerful. Because the reality was I realized that I have the ability to influence other people. Just like people have the ability to influence me, I have the ability to influence other people. And I would like to say to each of you guys this morning, you may not believe this right now, but I will tell you that each and every one of you have the ability to influence other people. Okay? Each and every one of you have circles of influence. You have spheres of influence. You have a platform. The people are around you. The people look at you. The people that talk to you. Right? And those people, you have the ability to influence. Okay? And I realized that night, as he gave his life to the Lord, I said, man, I didn't even intentionally necessarily do this with him. I wasn't necessarily talking to him. But I realized the power of inviting someone to youth group. Simply just that simple act. Of saying, like, will you come to youth group with me? And that's something for you guys to all think about, is like, are you inviting your friends? Are you opening that up? But it showed me that night that I have the ability to influence other people. We're in this series called Influential where we're talking about influence, right? We're talking about the topic of influence, and we're talking about what it takes to be an influential person, right? What it takes. And so week 1 we talked about being willing to act. All right, we looked at Moses' story and how God called Moses to do something miraculous, something that he was not ready to do, he did not want to do, he was scared to do, but God called him to take action, and Moses was willing to obey, was willing to say yes, and look what happened. He did something absolutely miraculous, something that went into the Bible, and it is a story that will be told to the end of time because he was able to say yes, he was willing to act. What does it take to be an influential person? It's saying yes, it's being willing to act. Right? Week 2 we talked about Week 2 we talked about the importance of being a good example. Okay? So we talked about being a godly example. Right? And so as we think about this idea of being an influential person, being an influencer, being able to influence other people, it's important to set a good example. right? People don't want to follow people that are setting bad examples. We want to be someone who sets a good example. And then week 3, this week, if you guys were there on Thursday night, we talked about hypocrisy. And we talked about how hypocrisy kills influence, right? We talked about the public perception that Christians don't live differently, right? I just want you to think about that more this morning. Christians don't live differently. That's what the public perception is. And many will go on to say that hypocrisy is the very biggest problem in Christianity. That hypocrisy, listen, is the biggest problem in Christianity. Guys, if that's really the biggest problem, that's something we need to tackle. That's something we need to take seriously. That's something we need to talk about. And that's something we need to defeat. Okay? So, influence is the ability to impact others. We all have platforms, like I talked about. We all have platforms. We all have spheres of influence that God has placed us in. He has entrusted us these spheres of influence. And these are this people that we walk day to day with, that we see at school, that are our family, all these different people that we have the ability to influence. So the question is, what are you going to do with the influence God has given you? What are you going to do with the influence God has given you? See, hypocrisy is claiming a belief and living in opposition. Okay? So hypocrisy kills the opportunity to influence because hypocrisy kills your reputation. Catch this, guys. Hypocrisy kills your reputation because when you're saying one thing and living a different way, you lose your credibility and people can't trust you. Right? So you cannot influence people if you're being a hypocrite and if you lose your reputation and lose your credibility. On Thursday night, I was able to hang out with some of you guys. I was in a small group after the sermon, and we were talking about this idea of hypocrisy and how we've seen it from other people, right? And people actually started opening up. Some of the guys started opening up about how they've been negatively impacted by people who are hypocrites, parents, and this will hail home from some of you guys, parents, church leaders, teachers, family members, aunts and uncles, grandparents. There's been people in their lives that have been hypocritical that have negatively impacted them. And they have hurt them because they'll say one thing and do something different. They're claiming a belief or they're claiming to do something and then they're living in opposition. That hurts, right? We can all stand together on common ground in that because we understand how that hurts us. Right? If someone says something to us and then does something different, it hurts us on the inside. And so as I was talking to these guys, I was like, and it was crazy, but we were just opening up about that and saying how hurt we've been. Okay? But then we take that a step further, all right, and say as believers, if we're doing the same thing, then how are we so hurting other people as well? You guys catch that? If we're being so hurt by hypocrites in our lives, okay, then how are we as Christians, if we're being hypocrites, think about how that's hurting others. Think about how we as Christians are hurting other people because we're being hypocrites. Okay, and that's something I think is so scary and so important for us to think about because that we're losing the respect from other people. Right? We're losing our reputation, our credibility if we're being hypocritical. Right? And so this is something that we really just have to think about. I was having a conversation with my sister a couple days ago, and we're having this super just deep conversation. I was just amazed by some of the thoughts. She's 12 years old, and she was just we were talking, and just it was definitely one of those conversations you don't have with someone that age very often. But we were talking about this idea of success. Okay, and we were talking about success and not necessarily the road to success, but we were talking about this idea of what success is. Okay? And she said something. She said success looks different for everyone. Okay? And at first thought you agree with me, right? You say hey, God's given me certain gifts. God's putting me in a certain situation. I agree with you. Right? Success looks different for everyone. But I'd push back. So that's not what she was talking about. I'll give you the background. She's talking more on what the ideal, what actually is success. Okay? Not personally, what your situation looks like, right? Because some of you guys will go into different fields, right? So being successful in each field looks different, right? We all will live different lives and all that kind of stuff. But she was talking about the idea and what the definition of success is. Okay? And what she was basically saying, catch this, is success is relative. She was basically saying that success is relative, and this is brilliant. I think this is brilliant of her to realize this, because it's recognizing the inability to define success, to agree on a definition of what success is. Okay? She was recognizing the inability to agree as a group, like as a people, on what success is. So, if you think about your own life, right? Think about different stages in your own life. When you were a kid, maybe it was like who you can hang out with, or what's the game? The tetherball? Like how many times you can hit around the pole, right? Is anybody just crazy about that game? No? Is that, yeah? We got a couple of there? Alright, cool. That was my game, y'all. That was just like, don't hate, because that was like, I just went off in that game. And I just remember, you guys ever like, get like crazy like bruises on your hand? Yeah, some of you guys like, yeah. You just like,
Yeah.
just kind of, no, that's cheating, bro. That's, isn't that like a ropey or something like that? Yeah. You got to go rope? I don't know, I don't remember. But think about this, alright? So we have different stages of our life, right? Tetherball, it's winning a tetherball, maybe it's, I don't know, having the coolest gig on Minecraft, or like maybe it's like, remember Clash of Clans, like that was like the Call of Duty, whatever it is, goals on FIFA. Like as we go through different times, maybe for some of you now it's getting the grades. Okay, maybe it's getting the grades, maybe it's being successful on your soccer team, on your football team. Maybe it's the instrument that you play. Maybe it's, for some of you that are older right now, maybe it's about the college you're going to go to. Okay, and so think about this idea of success of like, we go through periods of our time, periods of our life where success looks different. Like what we're chasing after looks different. You look, now that's just culture to culture. Think about how this is different. Think about how we go. Some of you guys have been on trips to Mexico and you've seen different cultures, or you've gone on vacation and explored different cultures and seen how what people chase after is different, right? Ideas of success looks different based on maybe your culture, maybe your age, whatever that is, right? Maybe some people would say it's living a good life. Maybe it's being successful, like whatever that is. Maybe it's money. Making enough money, maybe it's having a stable job, maybe it's getting that college degree, or doing that dream job of like something that will just like every day you'll be happy going to work. Maybe it's your family, it's getting married, it's having kids, maybe it's living somewhere, like that's the dream for you of success of like, I want to live in this place. Like success is so relative. And that's what my sister was realizing, like, hey, it's not like there's one area, like there's one thing that we all chase after. It's like, it's just all relative. Like person to person, who's to tell us what success looks like? It's what's gonna make me happy. It's whatever I want that's gonna make me happy, and that when I'm older, that I can look back and say like, I was a successful person. And I think we can all agree, just like we wanna be influencers, we all wanna be successful people, right? However, as believers, we claim to believe this book, right? And as we flip through this book, it tells us how to live our life. It tells us how to act. It tells us what to do, right? It tells us what to do with our money. It tells us what kind of relationships we're supposed to have, who we're supposed to be with, who we're not supposed to be with. It tells us how to treat our parents. It tells us how to treat our family members, how to treat our authority, right? It tells us in every facet of our life how to live. Right? And I don't think this is different for this area as well. Right? We look at this book and it answers some of life's hardest questions. Right? And so as we talk about this idea of success, I would like to look at the Bible and say, what does the Bible say about this? Because if we're talking about influence and being successful, then I think we have to open this book just to look at what the Bible says, what God tells us about success. Okay, so I would like you guys to open up to Matthew 28. We'll hop to the very end, so you guys know exactly where we're going. Great Commission. Matthew 28, verse 19. All there say aye. Aye. All not there say nay. All right. Respect. We'll wait. All there say A. Hey. All not there say nay. All right, sing. Let's go. Let's go, baby. Matthew 28, verse 19. Follow along. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I'm with you always to the very end of the age. Guys, I'm going to read this one more time. I want you to watch every single word, okay? It's intentional, okay? Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them, catch this, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. Surely I'm with you always. Guys, this is our ultimate call as believers. This is called the Great Commission. Okay, and this is what our call, our ultimate call in our life is. 1, make disciples. 2, being obedient in the process. Making disciples and being obedient in the process. This, right here in Matthew 28, is our call as believers, is when you give your life to the Lord and you believe His Word and who He is and who we are in respect to Him, this becomes your call. It becomes, when you think of success, this right here is what we're talking about. This is God's call on our lives. It's making disciples and being obedient in the process. But we have a problem. As we talked about on Thursday night, it's hypocrisy. If our ultimate call in life is to follow the Lord, obeying His commandments, and making disciples, hypocrisy, catch this, makes it impossible to fulfill God's call in our life. Okay, because if we've all been given influence, okay, if we've all been giving platforms, if we've all been giving spheres of influence that God has given us, He's entrusted us with, right? But if we're being hypocrites, then it makes it impossible to fulfill God's call of making disciples and being obedient in the process. Because if we are not being obedient, if we're living hypocritical lives, then it's impossible to make disciples. Because we lose our reputation and we lose our credibility. You know, I think one of the most powerful people is someone, and I'll preach this all day long, I think one of the most powerful people is someone who says one thing and lives accordingly. On either side, wherever the spectrum may lie. Because someone who's a hypocrite loses the reputation and loses the credibility. So if you have evil motives and you preach that and you're living accordingly, I think that person is very powerful. I will say that. And on the flip side, on the flippity flip, if we look on the other side, okay, some of you guys know what I'm talking about. If you look on the other side and you're preaching the Word of God, for example, and living accordingly, I would say you are one of the most powerful. I would say it's across the board. Why? Because hypocrisy kills your influence. Hypocrisy kills your influence. I look back at my life and think about the people who have impacted me the most. And for me, just growing up, my dad's one of the pastors here at LifePointe, and so I've grown up around ministry, and so I've been surrounded by a lot of ministry leaders. And I would say, man, these people, for example, are pastors, and they preach week in and week out. But see, to me, listening to Derek talk every week, what's actually more of a testimony is seeing how he's living outside of Sunday morning. You guys catch that? It's more than just Derek preaching on a Sunday morning. It's seeing how he walks day in and day out, being obedient to the Lord with his family, with his finances, with his job, every single facet of his life. It goes with my dad as well. My dad, you see him preaching there on Sunday mornings, right? But in my mind, what's even a bigger testimony is seeing how he lives every single morning. For me, it was waking up and going into his room every single morning. Growing up, he has a recliner in his room. Okay, that's really weird. I just realized, I guess that's not very normal. I don't know. Anyway, he has a recliner in his room, right? And I'm serious. Like I remember, growing up, I'd go into his room and he'd be sitting on his recliner, reading the Word. It would happen every day. Like I would walk into the room and see him on his recliner reading the Word of God. And then I would see him go about every single day being obedient. It's like you can hear someone preach on a Sunday morning, but if they're not living that out every day, then that's hypocritical And that, you'll never listen to that person. Right? I mean, you guys, does this make sense to you guys? Does this make sense? So what I would encourage, like those people who preach on a week-to-week basis, that can be powerful. But like I would like to say, is even for me, being in the youth group for 6 years with Derek, it's been more of a testimony and more of a life-changing for me, seeing how Derek lives his life every single day. Because I know that he's living a congruent story, that he's living a congruent life, that the way he talks and the way he lives every single day lines up together. Because the reality is, hypocrisy kills influence. So if we're living hypocritical lives as Christians, then people will never listen to you. You'll never have an opportunity to invite someone to youth group. Because why would they come to, and seriously, why would somebody come to youth group? To be exposed to what you say you believe in, if you're just not even living it out. Right? And like we talked about, is one of the biggest problems in Christianity. So something I want to share with you guys this morning is that I believe each and every one of us are called to be influencers. Okay, and I want to play with this for a second. I don't believe that all of us by nature are influencers. Okay? Does that make sense? Like some of you guys will think about this and say, I'm not necessarily the leader type. I'm not necessarily, like getting up on stage freaks me out. I would never want to do that. Okay? And I'm not saying that that's what it's going to take. Okay? Being an influencer looks different for everybody. But what does it mean to be an influencer? It means it's the ability to impact. It's the ability to impact other people. Okay, catch this. If you have an ability to impact other people, you have something to share with them. Maybe it's saying you won't to someone. Okay, as simple as that. That's an ability to influence. Okay, but listen to this, catch this. If you have a message for other people, then that means you have an opportunity to influence. Did you guys catch that? If you have a message for people that they need to hear, then you have an opportunity to influence people. Okay? And I'll just, if you guys are not getting it all right now, if you have a message to share with people, if you're not getting this, if you have a message to share with people, then you have the ability to influence. You all with me right now? So as we're talking about this idea of influence and what does it mean to be an influential person, I would like to make the claim that as a body of believers right here, we are a people of influencers. Why? Because we have the ability to impact. Why? Because we have a story to share. We have a story to share, and that's the gospel message. So although some of you guys might say, I'm not necessarily the influencer by nature, that I'm not necessarily the person that people will be following me, that I'm going to be on stage sharing with people. Right? Maybe that isn't appealing to you. That doesn't matter, guys. It looks different for everybody, but the reality is you have a message to share, and we're called to share that with people because we are influencers. And if you read, like we just read in Matthew 28, our ultimate call is to make disciples. But we have to be obedient in the process, because what happens if we're not being obedient? We're being hypocritical, and we lose our ability to influence. So guys, as we wrap up, I just want to encourage you guys to examine your own life, to look at the way that you're living on a day-to-day basis, that the way you talk and the way you walk lines up together. Because I promise you, whatever you're talking, whatever you're walking, if they don't line up, you're a hypocrite, and you lose in all of your credibility and all of your reputation. People will never listen to you if you're living a hypocritical life. And I'll go back on it again. It's the most powerful people are those who are walking the walk and talking the talk. That it's all lined up together. So I encourage you guys to examine that. And to think about the story that you have to share with people. Derek isn't kidding when he says the whole thing of Thursday night, like the most important part was everything we share in the Gospels. Because that, as a body of influencers, that's what we're called to share. Okay, and so as you guys think about your lives and where you're at right now, going into the summer, going into the next school year, going to college, going into high school for the first time, wherever you're at right now, think about the story you have to share, okay? And think about God has called you to be an influencer, okay? And what is the one thing that's setting you back? That might be hypocrisy. Living a hypocritical life. is maybe crushing your opportunity to have an influence and share the gospel message with people. So I encourage you to think about that one. I'm going to pray for you guys and then head out. God, we love you, and we recognize your call on our lives to make disciples and be obedient in the process. We love your message. It has changed our lives. God, we want to share that with other people. God, we recognize that hypocrisy might be holding us back from making an influence. God, I even want to just give an opportunity for those people who are feeling this way to lift those things up. Because the way we're talking and the way we're walking might not be aligned. So God, I pray as I'm sharing that some things might be coming to our heads right now, that some areas of our lives that are hypocritical might be showing themselves to us right now. And God, I pray that we will lift those up, that we'll set those behind us, that we'll make decisions and we'll move forward in the opposite direction, because God, we know that you're calling us to living a certain way. And God, we want to share your message, but we understand that we need to make some decisions to let go of the hypocritical stuff, let go of the sinful nature, and move in the right direction. God, we love you so much. And we're so thankful for an opportunity to be able to share your word with people. Share the word that changed our lives. God, in your name we pray.